What's going on, everyone? Kim Becker and Drew Kreisman here for your weekly Colorado Rockies AMA. Drew, we got so many questions for this week's AMA, which was pleasantly surprising, just because the Rockies have not been playing so well. As of this recording, they have lost the last 8 straight. So with that said, I won't get okay, let me just get your take. How do you feel, Drew?
This is some of the worst Major League Baseball that I have ever seen in my 11 years of covering Major League Baseball. From at bat to at bat, from play to play, offense, defense, base running, and pitching, the Colorado Rockies have been about as bad as you can be and still be technically a Major League Baseball team.
Remember when they won their first game down in San Diego and we were like, wow, what a great
their first 2. They had a decent little, there are maybe a small full of silver linings here, and maybe we'll have a chance to talk about some of them, but it's just been bad across the board. Terrible.
Bad. Very, very bad. Well, like I said, we got so many questions in, which we really, really appreciate from all of you. So thank you. I'm excited to hear your answers to some of these and get into them a little bit. Sadly, no positives, really. Not much positive to talk about at all. So I'm just going to be very blunt about that. This is going to be more of a black and white truth be told on the Colorado Rockies AMA. So let's get into it.
We're going to work through some stuff today.
We're going to work through it. This is a therapy session, everybody.
That's right.
All right, Drew, you are our therapist. So here's our first question. What will it take to finally do a full rebuild for this team? Houston accepted it years back and is now reaping the rewards. Other teams like Arizona and Baltimore finally turning it around after years of rebuilds as well. What will it take for the Rockies?
So if by full rebuild, you mean the Houston thing, which is a little bit different, which really was losing as many games as possible on purpose for 3 years in a row, they had over 100 losses, right? Something the Rockies have never done in their entire existence, right? Really committing that much to losing for that long. The Rockies under Dick Monfort are never, ever going to commit to that kind of rebuild. So if that's what you mean, I am sadly here to report to you that's not going to happen. They have a fundamental core belief that the integrity of the game means that you try to win, that the responsibility you have to your season ticket holders, your shareholders, whatever else, and then, like I said, even to the integrity of the game, agree or disagree. And ultimately, that's actually a philosophy I kind of agree with. I actually think that the losing on purpose thing has been really, really, really bad for baseball. It's not that it can't lead to positive competitive results. It clearly can, as the person who asked this question pointed out, and that's why teams do it. They wouldn't do it if it didn't work. But I do think enough losing this season to get more to the heart of the question. If I can give you, again, some hope, if I'm doing my job as the therapist here.
You're doing well so far.
So far, just throwing a bunch of darkness down on this already dark question. I do think that a certain amount of empty seats, a certain amount of ticket revenue loss, a certain amount of losing in general will lead to more of what you might call a soft rebuild, or one where they at the very least sell at the trade deadline. They get rid of some of the veterans here, and they commit to playing their young players, a lot of whom they do already have in the system, a lot of whom are already on the team or starting to be with Ezequiel Tovar and Montero and so forth. But it's going to have to be that. And I do think that can be achieved and might actually be right around the corner with as bad as they've been. But the full tank rebuild over a decade thing, they're never going to do that.
Sorry. Sad. All right. Well, very sad answer. Let's move on. Just probably some more sad answers here. Your thoughts on Bard's 9 pitching inning, Bryant early season revival. This is a 3-part question, Drew. Sorry.
Sure.
And Montero going down to AAA. Thoughts on all 3 of those? We'll start with Bard.
Great to see Bard back. That's just a phenomenal human story. One thing you get here is that everyone did this right. Daniel Bard was struggling with anxiety, and something that, throughout, I think, a lot of the history of professional sports, and a lot of teams right now in modern times would say that's whatever, suck it up, buttercup, and get out there and play.
Right.
It's been professional sports for a long time. So the Rockies did right by him by allowing him to go on the IL and get himself right. And obviously there's a bunch of fun possible baseball reasons to be excited. Daniel Bard last year was maybe the second or third best reliever in all of baseball. So it's fun to watch him pitch. He's very good. There are things about maybe he increases his value. And like I was saying in the last question, you can trade him at the deadline. But just as a human being around and talking to Daniel Bard, he's one of the most thoughtful, engaging, pleasant people I've ever had the opportunity to interview in that clubhouse. And you got to root for him come back from this and do well. And so it was really cool to see everyone handle that nicely. And for him to get off to a good start.
For sure.
Back up on the mound.
Awesome. All right. Second part, Bryant, early season revival. Thoughts on that?
Again, one of the very, very few silver linings in this early season. It's easy to lose track of it, but he's hitting over 300. He's now got a couple of home runs under his belt. He's got 2 of them at Coors Field, which was something he didn't do all of last year, which became a thing. Just after a while, it becomes a thing. So he hits 2 in a row, of course. That at the very least. And of course, the most important thing is that he's been healthy. He looks healthy. He looks like his old self again. He's taking good at bat after good at bat. He's maybe the only guy in the lineup who's consistently doing that. And it doesn't equate to wins for your team because one position player can only do so much. But yes, that's actually been really nice to see.
Good. Okay. And then Montero going down to AAA.
Okay. I am currently in the middle of writing an article about why I am so frustrated with the way the Colorado Rockies are handling this Elehuris Montero situation. They were on the brink, on the verge of doing a very good thing here by just carrying the rookie. He's just past his rookie eligibility, but the youngster.
Yeah.
Making him their everyday third baseman. You and I talked about this, Kim, all throughout spring training. It was the one thing, right? I said it's okay that they got Moustakas and these other guys as long as they commit to Montero at third base. They did for about 2 weeks.
Barely gave him a chance.
Now, in their defense, and because it is my job to think about things from the Rockies' perspective, he's been bad defensively. He's been very bad. And it's not only like, hey, that's costing you games, because, hey, whatever, lots of things are costing you games. It's not Montero. It's not your third base defense, right? But it's led to some really, really brutal innings, which is even tougher on the pitching staff that's having a hard enough time as it is. And so I understand why the staff looks in and says, look, we can't have just substandard. And it's not major league quality defense at third base. Let's be absolutely honest about that. The thing is, you got to let them work through it. After Chris Bryant, Montero is probably the next best hitter in the lineup so far. Well, Elias Diaz has been very good, but he's been right in that group. He's been one of the few consistent hitters they've had. He's 24 years old. He's going to make mistakes. You got to let him work through it. You're not losing games because of him. He needs the opportunity to play every day. If they send him down to AAA, it's a mistake. Benching him has been a mistake. This has been a bad handling of an important asset, and I hope they stop it as soon as possible.
Okay. All right. There you have it. All right. Well, another player here who interesting situations going on, struggles really. Austin Gomber. What will the Rockies consider moving Gomber to the pen after his recent struggles?
So I don't think so, but that's only based on kind of what I heard from them this spring training, which was that they felt like they kind of left him in the bullpen a little too long last year, and that wasn't really doing him any favors. And again, for a guy like Gomber, he needs to pitch through it, and he may never pitch through it. Let's be clear about that too. He may pitch and continue to be bad and flame out, and that's the end of the story. It happens, right? But this is only his third season as a starter, right? His first year, he was pretty to very good. His second year, he was pretty to very bad. Mm-hmm. So far this year, he's been pretty to very bad. And he's at least got few enough innings under his belt, as opposed to a guy like Jose Urena, who's proven for like a 9-year career that he's just not good, right? At least with Gomber, you're early enough in the innings count on his arm to say, and again, you're not winning enough ball games this season to be competitive. You got to let him pitch through it. Pitching 1 inning every couple of days or 2 innings every couple of days, he's not going to fix himself.
No.
So
consistency.
You need that consistency. Now, it may be the case, like I said, that he never gets it. But if he's going to get it, it's going to be by giving him the innings, doing everything you can to let him succeed, to get right. If anything, and I'm not sure of his option situation, you try sending him to AAA because he needs to be pitching regularly. He needs to be getting the innings, and he needs to be figuring out what it was he was doing when he was successful and why he can't seem to recreate that right now.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Well, we'll move on from that one. This question is interesting. It's funny. I'm excited to hear your answer.
Okay.
Does Bud Black make it to May despite the extension? Is Bill Schmidt safe? Thinking yes, because of course he is. Do you agree? But let's talk about that first part, Bud Black making it to May, which is literally 10 days away.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm just going to outright steal from our producer, Michael, and say that you could pay all of the money in the world to the best manager who has ever managed in the history of Major League Baseball. Connie Mack, I don't know. Take your pick. And the Colorado Rockies record would be exactly what it is right now, precisely the same. A manager cannot overcome a 14-3 deficit against the Pittsburgh Pirates at home. That's Bud Black ain't pitching. Bud Black ain't playing third base. Bud Black ain't coming out of the bullpen. Bud Black ain't leading off or hitting cleanup. You know what I mean? Like, there's only so much that man can do. Now, I'll admit there are certain old school things that the Rockies do, and Bud Black is a part of that. Back to my Montero issue, that are frustrating. But firing the man and bringing in whoever else, you know what I mean? Like, it just someone's gonna fix this. Like, who's even gonna want this job right now? You know what I mean? The fact that you actually have one of the most professional baseball men who is universally respected in the game by every manager, every player, every general manager, every owner, and every person that's ever met him. The fact that you've got Bud Black in your organization is one of the very few saving graces. And I just went off on the Montero thing, and I'm being more critical of Bud Black this year than I've been in a long time. But let me say unequivocally right now for the record, since the question was asked, that man is one of the very few things that you can point to and say that is above average professionalism from the Colorado Rockies in their manager. If we come to the day where they've turned it around a bit competitively and they're in the mix and they're losing ball games because he's going to the veteran instead of the rookie, then we can have this conversation.
Right.
But for now, you couldn't ask for a much steadier captain to get him through whatever storm nonsense this is.
Yeah, totally. All right. Well, we've got several more questions here. I don't think we're going to be able to get to every single one of them, but just so you guys know that anyone that sent in a question, we will get to it in future AMAs. So that question we'll keep for later if we don't get to it, but I want to try to get to about five more here. Thoughts on trying to get Jake Bird into a starter position? I feel like they ought to be pulling at straws like that at this point. What do you think? Do you think this is an option?
I guess. I don't. Sure. Why not? I mean, can he be worse than Jose Urena? He can be about the same. He has been about the same. He hasn't been good either. I don't know. I mean, sure. If you want to try that, knock yourselves out. Sorry. I don't think that there's a reliever on the roster that you could move into a starting position right now. No. Sorry.
Okay. Sorry. That's sorry.
Sorry, bird lovers.
What about Veen? Do we see Veen in Denver this year?
Probably. Hopefully. That'll be a nice day. That'll be a day Rockies fans can be excited about and remember and mark down on their calendars. I'm going to watch that game. I do think that, yes, there will be at some point this season a more official passing of the torch to that younger generation. It won't come all in one, but they'll kind of trickle in. And I think Veen will be part of that. He's not off to the best start in Double-A, unfortunately. So you do want him to, achieve some success, be, playing well in the minors before you call him up, regardless of how good his spring training was or what the schedule looked like. Got to be performing if you want to get that call. But I do think that'll happen. So I'll say yes. That's a thing to be looking forward to on the baseball diamond this season for your Colorado Rockies.
There you go, guys. A positive, something to look forward to. Who's excited? We are. Okay, next question. Any chance Profar gets moved for when Veen does come up? Dude isn't going to have a spot this year.
Yeah, again, this is one of those things where, and I kind of said this on the podcast that I recorded today, is that I think a best case scenario is going to have to be some of these veterans perform a little better. If Profar can hit a little bit, the Rockies can trade him for something, not a ton, but something. And I think it would make the perfect sense to do so. And there are several of those guys. Mike Moustakas is another one. On the higher end, guys like CJ Cron, Daniel Bard in, kind of fantasy land. Almost won't certainly happen because Rockies are Rockies, but Charlie Blackmon is another one you could see maybe get traded. Precisely to open up spots for guys like Veen, Tolia, Nolan Jones, hopefully Montero, and so on and so forth. So, yeah, I think Profar could be one of those guys. The thing is, those veterans also have to be performing semi-well in order for you to trade them and get anything for them. Otherwise, they're not going to just cut them off the roster, as much as you could maybe argue that they should. They're not going to do that.
Yeah. All right. So do you think the Rockies will call up young guns and play them or just waste their options?
I do think this is going to happen at some point. Like I said, I'm frustrated with the way they're handling Montero right now. I've been frustrated with some of their decisions on Tolia and Jones and so on and so forth. But I do think ultimately this season is going to be handed over to those guys. A lot of us believe it should have happened already. It's going to happen eventually. But yeah, I mean, just they're going to be forced to. You lose this often. You can't continue to justify playing a team full of veterans who aren't going to be on the team next year.
Be something.
Yeah, you've got to commit to your future at some point. And I do think that's the silver lining to all of the losing, is that it's grabbing the Rockies by the face and saying, these veterans aren't going to win you any games either. So if you're going to lose with the guys who are part of your future, who can make it a growing experience instead of losing with these guys who are just going to leave in the offseason or retire or whatever.
Totally. All right, last one here to wrap this one up. This was a great one. And like I said, all to the questions we didn't get to, we're saving them. We will answer them on the next episode here. But what's the plan from here? Just that blanket question. Seems like a last place finish is largely unavoidable, but what are the goals they should try to achieve in this season? What developments can we hope to see? Maybe we'll end this one on a positive note, Drew.
Yeah. And that question gets at what it should be, right? Developments. It should be about growth and developments for these young players. And I sort of highlighted a group throughout spring training in articles at milehighsports.com. And, everyone from Nolan Jones, Michael Tolia, eventually Zac Veen and Drew Romo, Ezekiel Tovar, Alauris Montero. In the bullpen, you've got guys like Justin Lawrence. I guess Jake Bird. I hope he comes around and works out better for him. Anybody who's under 30, maybe under 28 years old and is signed for another couple of seasons, regardless of what the end result of the game is, even if it's 14-3, if Ezekiel Tovar makes 2 or 3 really nice plays at shortstop, which actually he's been very good defensively, but can start getting some base hits, just some base hits, even good at bats for the 21-year-old are something you've got to sort of keep in context. So by the end of the year, you do want to see some results out of those guys. But it really should be about seeing improvement week over week, maybe month over month for the young players.
We might not have any other choice. And you know what? Development needs to happen at some point. It can't always happen in the off season. So unfortunately, sometimes it's just the way it rolls. This is how you figure out what works, what doesn't, and how to fix it. So Drew, I appreciate you. I know everybody that sent questions in. We appreciate all of you. And to the questions we didn't get, I promise you that we will on this next AMA next week. Hopefully we have a couple of wins to talk about. I don't know, because the last 8 have been losses, and I think it's time to maybe turn it around a bit.
they can't lose forever, right?
Can't lose forever. Can only go up from
Right.
here, right, Drew? Eek. Okay, well, I'm glad you're still having a good time. We really do appreciate your insight. You make it fun. So thank you, Drew.
Always appreciate you, Kim.